The devastating murder of 17-year-old Ellie Gould in May 2019 sent profound shockwaves across the United Kingdom, echoing far beyond the tranquil Wiltshire countryside. It was not merely the senseless snuffing out of a vibrant young life, but the subsequent relentless campaign spearheaded by her family that irrevocably altered the landscape of youth sentencing in England and Wales. Ellie's tragic story, marked by an agonizing end and her parents' unwavering pursuit of a fairer system, has become indelibly synonymous with Ellie's Law, standing as a powerful testament to the transformation of a mother's profound grief into a formidable force for systemic change, forever leaving its imprint on the nation's legal framework. Born on the 6th of February, 2002, in the quaint British town of Calne, Eleanor Ellie Gould was the cherished daughter within a large, close-knit family. Her childhood was enriched by the constant presence of not just her parents and older brother, but a wide circle of relatives living nearby, fostering a deeply interconnected and supportive environment. From a remarkably tender age, Ellie harbored an exceptional fondness for animals, especially horses. Her parents, recognizing this profound and undeniable passion, frequently took her to local stables, a practice that eventually culminated in the joyful acquisition of her own pony. Ellie quickly immersed herself in the equestrian world, embracing horseback, riding with enthusiasm, participating in various events, and achieving impressive results that showcased her dedication and burgeoning talent. Beyond the stables, her intellect shone brightly in academics. Ellie, with a clear vision for her future, planned to pursue psychology after high school and ultimately aspired to join the esteemed ranks of the mounted police, blending her love for animals with a calling to public service. By early 2019, at the cusp of turning 17, Ellie was diligently completing her final year of school, balancing her studies with a vibrant social life. She was a popular student, widely known for her amiable nature and her conscious efforts to maintain harmonious relationships with everyone around her, actively seeking to avoid conflicts. That same year, a classmate, Thomas Griffiths, asked Ellie out, marking her very first foray into a romantic relationship. Ellie, initially thrilled by this novel experience, was excited about the burgeoning connection with Thomas, who presented himself as a top student, engaged in sports, and a member of the school's rugby team. However, as the initial excitement settled, the subtle dynamics of their relationship soon began to shift, slowly but perceptibly. Ellie's mother would later recall that Thomas desired to spend almost all of his time with her, becoming increasingly demanding and possessive as the days passed. Ellie, however, couldn't match his intense level of attention. She needed to prioritize her impending crucial final exams and dedicate time to her beloved ponies and equestrian pursuits. As weeks passed, Thomas's behavior worsened. He would grow visibly upset, accusing her of neglecting him, and his control became progressively more suffocating. He relentlessly called and texted her throughout the day, then grew agitated when she couldn't respond immediately. Ellie's parents, having noted Thomas's quiet demeanor during his visits, a stark contrast to their outgoing daughter, had always harbored a quiet intuition that the relationship was not the right fit for Ellie. They correctly surmised it wouldn't last. Indeed, just a few months into the courtship, Ellie began to contemplate ending things. Thomas's behavior was not only making her increasingly uncomfortable, but also proved a significant distraction from her paramount goals of excelling in exams and securing her college admission. Ultimately, she made the difficult, yet mature, decision to break up with him on May 2nd, just one day before her death. Her friends, whom she confided in, confirmed that Thomas had not taken the news well. He persistently tried to persuade her to reconcile, barraging her with calls and pleas to meet, but Ellie steadfastly refused to engage. Mutual friends also noted a dramatic shift in Thomas's demeanor post-breakup. He even posted on social media, lamenting that the past few days had been incredibly difficult, attributing his distress not just to the breakup, but also to his father's recent cancer diagnosis and an aunt's passing. He concluded by expressing his struggle to cope and his intent to seek help from a school counselor. While some friends, seeing his post, reached out to offer support and found him genuinely depressed, they vehemently denied to police that Thomas could ever harm Ellie, insisting it was beyond belief. On the fateful morning of May 3, 2019, Ellie woke early, as was her custom, and began her preparations for school. With no morning classes scheduled, she only needed to arrive by noon for a few lessons. She had made arrangements for a friend to pick her up, and after bidding her parents farewell as they left for work, she waited at home. A few hours later, a message from Ellie reached her friend, informing her she decided to skip school that day and asking her not to come by. Her friend, understanding that a couple of missed classes weren't critical, proceeded with her day without a second thought. Around 3 p.m., Ellie's father, Matthew Gould, returned home from work. As he stepped into the kitchen, he was met with a horrifying tableau. His daughter lay face down on the floor amidst a substantial pool of blood. Initially, gripped by shock, he speculated Ellie might have suffered a fall or an unfortunate accident. But then, the stark reality of blood splattered across the kitchen, coupled with the chilling sight of a knife embedded in his daughter's neck, her hands clutching its handle, struck him with a clarity that would forever haunt him. He immediately contacted emergency services and, following the operator's instructions, desperately attempted to administer first aid. Yet, Ellie showed no signs of life, and her father, in a moment of profound anguish, realized she was already gone. When paramedics arrived, their role was confined to confirming Ellie's death, estimating she had passed away at least 4 hours prior. They also noted multiple stab wounds on her body, predominantly concentrated around her neck. Ellie's parents were plunged into an unfathomable state of disbelief, clinging to hope even when police gently conveyed the devastating truth that their daughter had been murdered. Her father, in a deep state of shock, initially struggled to accept it, convinced that what had befallen Ellie was simply a dreadful accident. Her body was then transferred to medical examiners, who unearthed further grim details. Alongside the 13 visible stab wounds, they unequivocally confirmed signs of strangulation on her neck. This suggested the assailant had first attempted to kill her by strangulation, failing, before resorting to the kitchen knife. Crucially, the examiners also discovered several defensive wounds on Ellie's body, irrefutable evidence that she had fought back valiantly, desperately trying to shield herself from her attacker in her final moments. As forensic experts meticulously examined the crime scene for every shred of evidence, police launched their urgent investigation. They brought Ellie's parents to the station, inquiring if they could name anyone who might have harbored ill will toward their daughter. After a moment of shared, agonizing reflection, both parents could only offer one name: Thomas, Ellie's recent boyfriend. Her mother meticulously recounted the rapid decline of their relationship, highlighting Thomas's increasingly possessive and controlling nature. They conveyed their discomfort with him, noting his unusually quiet demeanor in their home, a stark contrast to Ellie's effervescent personality. This early testimony immediately directed investigators toward Thomas as a person of interest. Further deepening the police's suspicions were the interviews with Ellie's friends. They provided critical insights into the intensity of Thomas's reaction to the breakup, confirming his persistent calls and pleas for reconciliation, and Ellie's firm refusal to engage. Mutual friends also detailed how Thomas's behavior had dramatically shifted after the split. While his social media post about his personal struggles initially garnered sympathy, the timing, with Ellie's body yet to be discovered, would later be scrutinized as part of an attempt to construct an alibi. Armed with this critical information, investigators decided to speak directly with Thomas. First, they forensically reviewed Ellie's phone, discovering that Thomas had indeed sent her a message that morning asking to meet. They proceeded to Thomas's residence and directly inquired about his whereabouts on the morning of May 3rd. Thomas initially explained that his mother had driven him to school, but he was too upset over the breakup and his other personal issues to attend classes. Instead of going in, he claimed, he waited until his mother departed, then walked to a bus stop and returned home. En route, he stated, he messaged one of his teachers to inform them of his absence. According to Thomas, he remained at home for the rest of the day, doing homework and relaxing. During this initial conversation, he even inquired about Ellie's well-being, feigning ignorance of her fate, prompting the officers to deliver the grim news of her death. Investigators then spoke with Thomas's mother, encountering an interesting and telling discrepancy. She confirmed dropping him off at school that morning, but noted that upon her return home later, Thomas was not there. When confronted with this contradiction, Thomas offered a new, rather convoluted explanation. He hadn't wanted his mother to know he'd skipped school, so he had hidden in a closet until she left for work. During this second conversation, officers acutely observed fresh scratches on Thomas's face. When pressed, Thomas weakly attributed them to self-inflicted wounds, but investigators remained highly skeptical, especially given the medical examiner's finding that Ellie had struggled violently during the attack. These injuries could very plausibly have been sustained in that desperate struggle. Crucial corroboration came from Ellie's neighbors. One provided a key observation. That morning, they had seen a man approaching Ellie's house. While unable to discern facial features due to the distance, the neighbor offered a rough but significant description of his attire. Police then meticulously checked Thomas's alibi using GPS data from his phone, which became the undeniable linchpin of their case. They confirmed he had returned home after leaving school, but what they discovered next sharply contradicted every version of his story. At precisely 10:50 a.m., Thomas's phone disconnected from his home Wi-Fi and began moving directly toward Ellie's house. Astoundingly, just 3 minutes later, his phone was located near her home, where it remained for approximately an hour. At 11:51 a.m., the phone started moving back toward Thomas's house, reconnecting to his home Wi-Fi within minutes. Police quickly realized it would have been physically impossible for Thomas to cover the several miles between his and Ellie's homes on foot in just 3 minutes, as they lived in neighboring villages. Subsequently, they reviewed surveillance footage along the route Thomas would have taken and identified a silver Ford Focus, clearly belonging to Thomas's parents. The car's movements precisely matched the phone's location data, leading investigators to the undeniable conclusion that Thomas must have been driving. Further review captured the same car leaving Thomas's house again and returning just 18 minutes later. While investigators couldn't pinpoint the exact destination of this short, unexplained trip, they managed to narrow down the general area. Suspecting Thomas had only stopped briefly, for about a minute, they astutely theorized he might have been disposing of crucial evidence. Their hunch was soon chillingly validated. A meticulous search of a small wooded area near his home revealed a trash bag containing blood-stained rags and an apron. With this mounting and irrefutable evidence, police obtained a warrant to search Thomas's home. They requested the clothes he had been wearing that morning, to which Thomas, attempting to conceal, replied he had placed them in the washing machine. Officers promptly seized the clothing, along with his shoes, and dispatched everything to the lab for urgent analysis. Forensic experts quickly completed their examination, finding irrefutable traces of Ellie's blood on nearly all of his clothes, demonstrating Thomas's desperate but futile attempts to wash them away. The DNA extracted from the blood unequivocally confirmed it belonged to Ellie, mirroring the blood found on the rags in the woods. Thomas's clothing also chillingly matched the description provided by Ellie's vigilant neighbor. All of this, combined with other compelling evidence, painted a meticulously clear and damning picture of what had transpired. According to the investigators' carefully reconstructed timeline, Thomas had planned the murder with a chilling premeditation. After his mother dropped him off at school, he immediately took a bus back home, cunningly hid in a closet, and patiently waited for her to leave for work. He then drove the family car to Ellie's house. It seems Ellie, possibly believing he merely wanted to talk, allowed him entry, and they ended up in the kitchen. Based on the medical examiner's report, Thomas first attempted to strangle Ellie, during which she bravely fought back, inflicting the scratches on his face. When this brutal attempt failed to kill her, he seized a kitchen knife and stabbed her 13 times in a frenzied attack. For the next painstaking hour, Thomas systematically attempted to clean up the horrific crime scene, using the rags and leaving telltale smudges across the kitchen. He then gathered the blood-stained rags into a trash bag and tried to wash his sneakers in the sink, where additional traces of blood were later found. Following this, he meticulously wiped the knife with a kitchen apron, likely to erase his fingerprints, before tossing the apron into the bag. Finally, in a calculated and grotesque attempt to mislead investigators and stage a suicide, he placed the knife in Ellie's hand and positioned it around her neck. Detectives also meticulously analyzed the message Ellie had sent to her friend, informing her she wasn't coming to school and asking not to be picked up. They concluded this message was sent after Ellie had already died. It appeared Thomas had taken her iPhone, unlocked it using Ellie's fingerprint, and sent the message himself, ostensibly to delay the discovery of her body and buy himself more time. But his attempts to obscure his tracks didn't end there. After discarding his clothes in the washing machine at home and dumping the bag of evidence in the woods, he encountered a neighbor and brazenly asked for a ride back to school. There, he attended his remaining classes, chatted casually with friends, and even visited the school nurse. He confided in her about the immense emotional toll of the past few days, detailing his struggle to cope, further attempting to craft a facade of distress. The concerned nurse then contacted his mother, who subsequently took him home. Later that day, Thomas made a public post on social media about his breakup with Ellie and his other perceived personal difficulties. At that point, Ellie's body had not yet been discovered, and police unequivocally believed that all these actions were a calculated part of his elaborate attempt to construct a misleading alibi and deflect suspicion. It took the police only a few intense hours to gather this compelling and overwhelming body of evidence, and by the same evening, the 17-year-old Thomas Griffiths was arrested on suspicion of murder. During subsequent interrogations, Thomas steadfastly continued to deny any involvement, but the sheer weight of the evidence against him ultimately compelled the case to be sent to court. The first hearing took place on the 29th of August, 4 agonizing months after the murder. It was here that Thomas abruptly changed his narrative, a pivotal moment in the legal proceedings. He stood before the judge and confessed to killing Ellie, though his confession came with a significant and self-serving caveat. According to his revised version of events, he had gone to Ellie's house that morning to study for their exams. During their study session, an argument erupted, and from that point on, he disingenuously claimed his memory became a complete blur. He recalled attempting to strangle her, but insisted the rest of his actions were beyond his recollection. The prosecution, however, swiftly and emphatically dismissed Thomas's revised story, highlighting several glaring inconsistencies that undermined its credibility. Firstly, Ellie had made it abundantly clear she wanted no further contact with him, a fact widely known to all her friends and family, making the idea of them amicably studying together highly improbable, especially with her friend due to pick her up soon. Thomas's convenient claim of memory loss also directly contradicted his meticulous and conscious actions in the immediate aftermath, spending an entire hour attempting to clean the crime scene, deliberately placing the murder weapon in Ellie's hand to stage a suicide, systematically disposing of crucial evidence, fabricating an alibi at school, and even attempting to wash his bloodied clothes. Given the overwhelming and contradictory evidence, the court sided unequivocally with the prosecution. In November 2019, Thomas Griffiths was found guilty of murder. Before sentencing, he delivered a final statement, offering an apology to Ellie's grieving family and expressing what he claimed was genuine remorse for his horrific actions. However, a crucial legal point remained that sparked immediate and widespread controversy. Thomas was only 17 at the time of the murder, a factor that directly impacted the severity of his sentence. The judge sentenced him to life in prison with the possibility of parole in just 12 years and 6 months. This meant Thomas could potentially be released at the relatively young age of 34. This verdict ignited a profound sense of outrage, not only from Ellie's family, but also among a significant portion of the public across the country. People were baffled as to how someone who had committed such a premeditated and brutal murder could receive what was perceived as a remarkably lenient sentence. But despite the powerful public outcry, legal avenues to alter the court's decision retrospectively were exhausted. Ellie's father, Matthew, publicly voiced his profound concern, stating that this sentence inherently put other young women at risk, firmly believing Thomas could remain a grave danger to society upon his release. He passionately asserted that Thomas was a psychopath who should remain incarcerated for the remainder of his life. This profound sense of injustice galvanized Ellie's parents, Matthew and Carol Gould, to dedicate the subsequent years to tirelessly lobbying for fundamental changes to existing legislation. Their unwavering efforts finally bore fruit in 2021 with the historic passage of Ellie's Law, formerly known as Section 27 of the Police, Crime, Sentencing, and Courts Act 2022. This landmark legislation marked a crucial reform, allowing juvenile murderers to receive significantly longer prison sentences, potentially up to 27 years without parole. particularly when aggravating factors such as overkill, excessive violence, coercive control, or the murder occurring at the termination of a relationship are present. It specifically addressed the previous legal loophole where murders committed in the home, predominantly against women, often carried a lower starting tariff than those committed in public. Unfortunately, and agonizingly for the Gould family, this pivotal change could not retrospectively affect Thomas Griffiths, as he was convicted under the old legal framework. The only recourse Ellie's parents managed to secure was a requirement for Thomas to undergo extensive therapy after his eventual release, in the earnest, albeit tenuous, hope that it would prevent him from committing similar horrific crimes in the future. Since then, Ellie's parents have remained steadfast in their commitment to honoring their daughter's memory. They actively organize events, including inviting children to ride her beloved horses. According to Carol Gould, this cherished activity provides a measure of solace and helps ease the immense pain of their enduring loss, as horseback riding was, and remains, Ellie's greatest passion. Carol Gould has also become a leading voice in the Killed Women campaign, a powerful advocacy group for families of women murdered by men, striving for stronger domestic homicide laws and greater awareness. Their work actively challenges the notion that murders committed within the home are somehow lesser crimes, fighting for equitable sentencing for all murder victims. The echoes of Ellie's vibrant life continue to resonate, fueling a broader national conversation about justice, the pervasive dangers of coercive control, and the ongoing, crucial fight to protect vulnerable individuals from the devastating and often fatal consequences of unchecked violence.